Hi, everybody. Hey, how about that March for Life? All I got to say about Mike Pence is he makes the best case for Donald Trump not getting impeached. That's all I'm going to say. That's the best I can do for him. Let's just move on. I think that would be best. So, the March for Life mostly centered around anti-abortion or pro-choice or pro-life. And so that's kind of like the philosophical dilemma with the march or the concept of the March for Life. The fact that people have a very different idea of what they mean when they say pro-life. And I tried to go through it because I've been reading, various accounts and, you know, in the social media sphere, everyone's got an opinion. But you come here for mine and to share yours and read others too, I'm sure. And so, what my understanding is from what I've seen is that there are three schools of thought involved here. People try to simplify it, but it's a very complicated issue. And so, there's complicated schools of thought. And I've kind of figured out that there are about three. Anti-abortion is one school of thought, and it's concerned with the life of the unborn child and a type of contempt for the life of the mother that carries that unborn child, and her ability to decide what happens. And then also a type of contempt, even bordering on hatred, for when that child grows up and becomes not the cute little baby that's in the poster, but a school child that's getting suspended, and then a teenager that's perhaps going into the juvenile delinquency or being targeted by police, and then the adult who's also being targeted for various reasons. That the anti-abortion stance is mostly concerned with um, indifference towards incest that might have created the child, rape that might have created the child, birth defects that might uh, accompany the child's physical appearance or um, life quality, and then indifference towards the health of the mother who might actually suffer everything from a heart attack to a stroke while attempting to give birth. And so rather than take these into account, these are all ignored. Um, for the more for the preference of controlling the mother and what her decisions are. Also, I've been noticing that, or it has been noticed, and I've been reading what has been noticed, that there's also a sort of racial targeting with the anti-abortion stance. That at the Right to Life parade or gathering rally, there are also some language using civil rights sloganeering to reverse and then target Black women, saying things like social justice begins in the womb, all lives matter, abortion doesn't advance colored people, it kills them. And then the NAACP actually stands for the National Association for the Abortion of Colored People. And then there's handouts saying things like liberal activists will cry racial injustice when an estimated 258 unarmed Black lives were killed by police in 2015, yet celebrate when over 300,000 unarmed Black lives in the womb are killed every year. And then more language saying things like abortion is the number one killer of Black lives. And so this is the type of hatred that you see from the anti-abortion stance, from my understanding, from what I see in social media and then write-ups of events like these, that there is actually an element for hatred, that it's more about hatred and control, and then targeting of certain types of women for shaming and humiliation rather than actually a celebration of life. So that's the anti-abortion stance, from my understanding. There's also a pro-life stance, which they are not equivalent. The pro-life stance is more concerned for life from the womb to the tomb. In fact, that it's a concern not only for the life of the unborn, but the life of the unborn plus the born. And that pro-life stance is consistent. In fact, that on certain social policies where life is at stake, pro-life is pro-life. That these are people who are concerned about the lives of refugees, the lives of immigrants, the lives of people affected by the environment, the lives of the elderly, infirm, more concerned with the teachings of Jesus Christ rather than um, kind of theological posturing. And then also the life of the individual plus the life of the planet that individual lives on. So more holistic. And then also a stance against the death penalty. They consider that pro-life. And then a stance against war, unnecessary war. And then, of course, pro-healthcare, pro-community concern about the individual. And so there's a difference, it seems, between an anti-abortion stance and a pro-life stance, and that the pro-life philosophy is not just about forcing a woman, intimidating a woman, criminalizing a woman, threatening a woman to bear a child she does not want to bear, but actually creating an environment to where a woman would want to bear a child, and that the child is taken care of, educated, has health care, there's nutrition available, there's social safety net available to take care of that child. Whereas it seems like a lot of the anti-abortion stance is concerned with, again, punishing the mother and creating an atmosphere of control and intimidation and contempt, and then using the availability or restricting resources to punish the mother and the child once it's born. For instance, not providing food, shelter, withholding resources, poisoning the environment, things like that. In effect, creating a world in which the mother doesn't want to bear a child. So, two different ways to go about it. The last one is the concept of pro-choice. And I say that because it seems like, from what I've been seeing, from what I've been hearing, and the scuttlebutt that drifts through the atmosphere, is that there are women who have a public and a private position, which is very controversial when Hillary Clinton said that. But it in some respects, it's true. that there are some things, some decisions that a woman might make privately, but will not force a private decision onto other people. So a woman might be pro-life for her own self, have a pro-life stance for her own philosophy towards whatever, or she might have a, a pro-choice stance for herself, meaning that there are some women who will not even contemplate the possibility of aborting their own child. It just is not something that they would do or would want to do. But they, at the same time, don't want to force their view on another woman or attempt to control what another woman does with her body. And so, in fact, even though they claim to be pro-life for themselves, in essence, they actually are pro-choice, meaning that their pro-life stance is for themselves, and that they respect the ability for other women to make their own decisions. And so it's almost like getting back to the signs that apparently were targeting Black people, Black women, with the Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter and National Association for the Abortion of Colored People, which are very hostile, racially hostile, and is a bad reflection on the anti-abortion movement and the people that try to wear that mantle. It's it really brings up a very dark kind of thought for Black women to see, some certain, because I don't speak for all Black women, but it's possible that this brings up dark thoughts. During slavery in the United States, the sexual and reproductive freedom of Black women didn't exist. It was controlled by white males who dominated, sometimes forced Black women to breed or not breed. They were raped, they were controlled, they were enslaved. And so for a group of white men to carry signs targeted at Black women, attempting to tell them what they should and shouldn't do with their bodies, it brings up dark thoughts. None of them good. So, you know, all sorts of ways to look at things. Everyone's got an opinion. Some people say, no opinions at all, just totally ignore it because it doesn't affect them. Like, I'm a man, I don't have a baby, so what? That's your problem, you women. Let's see. There was also kind of a lot of judgment about the atmosphere. There were people who were noticing or making comments on how rude the Women's March was, how angry and confrontational, how they used bad language and bad words. And so there was a lot of smearing. There actually was a lot of high energy at the Women's March. It was like organized chaos. There was a lot of organic nature to it, handmade signs, handmade hats, and things like that. Whereas with the March for Life, it was a different kind of atmosphere. It seemed like it was more controlled, that people went where they were told, said what they were told, sang the songs that they were told. The signs were mass produced, not handmade, so it wasn't really individual. It was, organized, where people were told, hold this sign like this other sign over here, and they were pre-printed. And so there was not so much organic nature to it. But it's, it's all what you're looking for out of life. People can look into it and see something different depending on what their own lives look like, their own background, their own philosophies. You get out of it what you put in, and people come with their own preconceptions and leave with some additionals, some affirmation, or maybe they say, hey, let's not do it again next year, or I can't wait till the next time. It all depends on where you are, how you feel, things like that. You get out of it, what you get out of it. But again, hopefully this is still a democracy. I don't know sometimes with all the legislation that's coming out and the laws that are running through the state legislatures and the U.S. Congress. I think we're some kind of republic, or I don't know what's going on. It's crazy every day. Good luck.